Got it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to, I don't even know what month it is anymore, June's edition of the New World of New Biz, as well as you lovely lot now dialing in. I can see the numbers going up nice and quickly. So hello, everyone. We are also, I hope, this month being live streamed on LinkedIn, which seems to break every single month, but we have managed to get it working today, I think. So as well as everyone who is here and joining us on Zoom, hello to everyone else who is joining us on LinkedIn. So as always, we are focused on chatting about things that are going to help you attract and win more new business. That's why we call this webinar The New World of New Biz. If you haven't joined us before, hello, my name is Katie Street. I am your host for today's webinar, but also have lots and lots of experience in leading new business. I run an agency for agencies where we help, this is the word agency playing in a lot, agencies and actually tech businesses and other B2B businesses attract and win more new clients. And today we are going to be super focused in on how you can better use your social channels and social content to help you attract and convert more new clients. So of course, I have a stellar panel with me, as always, who are going to help me navigate this subject and hopefully teach you guys lots about what you can do. First up, I guess we have had previously Andy Lambert, but who now has a new job title because he managed to sell his business to Adobe and is now Senior Manager of Product Marketing and author of Social 3.0 at Adobe, obviously, because they bought his previous business. So hello, Andy.
Hello. Thanks for having me on again.
And I'm sure lots of you may already know Andy. If you don't follow Andy on LinkedIn and you enjoy the content today, do go and follow him. He posts some awesome hints, tips, social roundups, which we will start to dig into today, and has over 12 years of experience in building his own business, which he's managed to sell, as well as creating awesome social content. So yeah, Andy's definitely worth a follow. Next up, the fantastic Ed Knights. So Ed is Head of New Biz and Marketing at Born Social and isn't our first Born Social guest, but also has an incredible 10 years of experience working in digital agencies. I think has twice, so same as me, Ed, been listed as in the BD 100, which celebrates the top 100 people in the world of business development. And of course, now is leading new biz and marketing at Born Social. So as well as doing fantastic social for themselves to win new clients, that's actually what they do for all of their clients as well. So hello, Ed.
Morning, everyone. How are you doing?
Lots to share today. I'm super excited about this lineup. And last but not least, the fantastic Dan oh my God, I can't talk today. This is a great
Knowlton, I'll help you out.
Knowlton, thank you, Dan. So Dan is a UK-based social media marketing expert who has grown Knowlton into a multi-award winning business that has worked with the likes of FIFA, all the brands, Citibank, was it, Nestle, a whole load of brands. And in fact, we spotted Dan and wanted to get him on today's webinar because his content is so awesome and so fun. And actually, you coined a fantastic phrase yesterday, Dan, and I think you called it advertainment when we were doing.
I definitely stole it from someone else, so I can't take the credit. I've heard it before. Advertainment, yeah. Yeah,
I love it, but it's so true, and it actually is totally represents how you guys position yourselves on social, which I think is again really important. If you can start to differentiate yourself through your content, that is, something that we should all aspire to. So again, all of these guys are worth a follow, guys. If you don't follow them already on LinkedIn, I will make sure in our follow-ups today, I do send links. I can see the chat's already busy, so I'm hoping lots of you are saying hello to each other. What I have realized that I haven't said is please do use the Q&A if you've got any questions. I do try and keep my eye on the chat as well, but it can get quite busy. So if you've got a question for our panel today, I would love it if you could put it in the Q&A. Also, at the end of today's session, as always, I will share a poll. All of the results from the poll we build up over time, and we will share the results with you, and you can see trends, what's happening in the world of new business for agencies right now as well. So yeah, please do stay on at the end and help me fill out the poll. That's very, very helpful of you, and information I will share. So first up, Andy, I'm going to come to you because I mean, everyone here does, but you definitely have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the world of social media. Is there anything new that we should have our eyes on in terms of changes in some of our kind of core or lead platforms that you're really seeing businesses harness and helping them attract a wider audience at the moment?
I think there's broadly 4 macro trends to think about, because things change all the time, but the macro trends are ones that are quite interesting to pay attention to. First one is the broader creator economy and a shift towards that. The latest figures show that 200 million people are now part of the creator economy. And that might seem quite disconnected from B2B, but the reason that's so important is creating microcosms of so many small niche communities, which create incredible opportunities for us to scale our business through word of mouth. I'll talk more about this later, but that has a huge impact because it's leading all of the social media platforms in terms of the features that they're developing, be it monetization features, be it community creation features. So we've just recently seen Twitter communities launch, for example. Then in addition to that, there is live streaming. Obviously, it's a great case in point of doing this now because it's the content format that's generating the most or the highest average engagement rate across all platforms at the moment. So that has, significant impact for B2Bs in terms of increasing reach. We're moving beyond single images in the feed kind of stuff. So, content formats are becoming more rich, more diverse. Live streaming is being one of those. Then the third trend, I think this is no news to anyone, is just broader short form video. Across the top 8 social platforms, short form video is absolutely what's being prioritized, obviously popularized by TikTok, but then becoming ubiquitous across all the platforms. So short form vertical video in 9:16 aspect ratio, mobile first, that really is where all of the social platforms are going when you think about optimizing our content for that. And just TikTok in general seems to it's stealing all the media attention. We'll talk more about it later, but in the UK alone, it triples the amount of time that people spend on Instagram, which in Instagram terms already is double what the amount of time people spend on LinkedIn. So it garners so much of a share of the attention. It's just phenomenal at the moment. So yeah, I'm very buoyant about it. So they're my 4 top trends.
Video, live stream. Well, hopefully we are live streaming on LinkedIn and we're practicing what we preached today then. But it's so true. We do still, although we did see a really big rise in those kind of slide share posts that we do for, in fact, we will do one off the back of today's webinar with the top tips that people can take away. But, outside of that, video is always number one. And we're really trying to explore. And I know Jasmine, who helps with our marketing, is listening in today. I'm very, very keen to grow out our presence on TikTok and use more TikTok style videos across our other channels as well. So watch this space, guys. So of course, you're not the only one here today with a view on what's going on in the world of social. Ed, I'm going to come to you next. Obviously, there's you've got 2 views on this. What's working well for the brands that you guys work for, as well as, of course, the kind of content that you guys put out. Are there any trends or things that you've noticed recently that are really helping get you that social reach and engagement?
Yeah, I think you're right to point out that there's a bit of a difference between consumer facing and business facing social. I think that one trend is that difference is getting a bit closer together. I think you're finding whether it's kind of a blend of employer branding kind of coming into this a little bit, and maybe agencies starting to talk to consumers or their potential employees through TikTok. We're definitely seeing a sort of colloquialization of agency language on social. I think gone are the days of a creative agency sounding very formal, very Mad Men, and talking very much like a business. I think you're seeing that kind of tone of voice come into communications. Agencies realizing they don't need to be quite so serious to develop lead generation. Their expertise comes through from a creative perspective. And so I think whether that comes through things like video, live streaming, actually showing the personalities of their people or their content or their work, you definitely don't need to sound like a consultancy or a management consultancy on social. And I think that trend is basically being almost forced by the fact that platforms like TikTok are so different. You simply can't be a normal B2B marketing channel on TikTok. You have to come across from that native perspective. So I'd say that that's probably the biggest trend I'm seeing across the industry, and things that I'm seeing agencies particularly doing well is actually behaving natively on social platforms, and in that actually sounding a bit more human, hopefully.
Yeah, it's so frustrating, isn't it? Why is it? Sorry, I feel like I just need to do this because as you can all see, I'm in the office today, which I'm not usually, because there's a Wi-Fi outage in my area. So I'm in the office, and the light, because no one's moving in the office, has just gone off anyway. So I'm a bit darker than normal. But yeah, it's so true. For some reason, when we start doing, so, or not us, but businesses want to start talking like a business when they're posting on social, but it's still a human to human interaction. It still needs to be engaging. It still needs to be relevant. So I think, showing up, understanding your tone of voice, the personality that you need to portray, the kind of content that you want to, put out, and making sure that you are putting it out consistently. It does sometimes feel, hard to track and hard to understand, how well it's doing, but the more you do it, the better the results get. And it is an integral part now of Street's marketing strategy. We did start probably doing more via email, but now we post every single day. We have insightful, helpful content that's going out to the market. And I know, Dan, you guys have done similarly. How important has social been in your new biz strategies?
Very. And I think, just to go off the back of the points you're just speaking about, we learnt the hard way that just trying to act like a business and be very corporate doesn't work as well as it used to anymore. Like, we spent the first couple of years starting our agency trying to be like what we thought we had to be like, wearing suits, being very corporate, talking very formally on video. And we soon realized that if you actually start to create content that fulfills the need of the people who are on social media, they want to be there to be educated, entertained, inspired, rather than you just in a suit talking about how great your business is, then it can work really well. And we started to experiment with advertainment in 2017 when we produced a kind of testimonials video, where we shot a testimonial video of our customers, but we knew that no one would actually want to watch that because it's pretty boring. So we dressed up as different characters and pretended to be our own customers, commenting on how great it is to work with Knowlton, just as a bit of fun. And that was the moment that we really realized the kind of power of making content that isn't just like funny or like funny cat video content, but actually has a kind of strategic arm to it, to drive new business. So yeah, and we create lots of different kind of sketches and videos that take the mick out the whole marketing world to attract new business.
I love that, your content. In fact, we have asked you guys, haven't we, for some examples of really good content, so that we hopefully will be able to share with all of you some really high performing posts. We'll do the same from some of the stuff that Street does for Street, and also for the agency clients that we work with. So I do promise you there will be a follow-up, guys, from today with some examples of really good content. But where do you start? And I don't know who to come to with this one. So whoever wants to answer first, I'm going to let you take the mic. Where do you guys start when you're looking at planning what valuable content is for your audience? Or where should you start? Oh, there we go. Everyone wants to go.
Go on, Andy.
Ed's put his hand up. He's very polite.
Okay,
so
hands up wins.
We're going to you.
I missed that. Andy, that's very polite. I'll let you go next. From Born Social's perspective, we sat down about a year and a half ago, and we realized that really all of our marketing kind of wanted to do three things. From an agency perspective, we wanted people to think of us as thought leaders, think of us as delivery leaders. So we work with great brands, we have great thinking, and then also think of us as cultural leaders, both kind of from an employer perspective, but also from sort of general imprint as a business, B Corp accreditation, things like that. So we sort of started with that. So everything we post on social needs to be filtering through one of those three topics and doing one of those three jobs, or if not two or three or three of three. And then the sort of second lens that we put on all our social content, and keep it as simple as that, is basically, does it have a value exchange? And I think that once you've answered those two things, you're kind of in a good place. Mainly because people don't want to, we're not a brand in the sense that we don't have that brand love in the same sense that, our clients like Guinness and it might have. So like it's just not the same. So I think it's important that whenever people are interacting with your business, they're learning something or understanding something about a competitor of theirs, or coming across from the perspective that thinking we're a good employer and we're nice people, if any of those three things happen, or we're smart and we have an interesting take on the industry, I can't see anything going that wrong. And in that sense, it feels like your relevance is just always ticking. So I think from that perspective, that's the main place we start.
I think that resonates with our approach here as we're building Content Cal. And yeah, it's being clear about what you want to be known for. That single thing is such an important question to answer. And it comes as a result of truly understanding your audience first, clearly, but not understanding your audience in terms of demographics, understanding them in terms of what's more important, which is about psychographics. How do they behave? What's their values, their shared worldviews, the things that keep them up at night? When you can think about that, you understand the emotional drivers of an audience. And then, yeah, I would just chime in on the same stuff that Ed said, which is the value exchange is the most important thing. For Content Cal, we had one singular objective, which is we want to be the go-to resource for any form of social media education, from trends to best practice to strategy creation. And we just leaned in on that. And all of our content then becomes, our kind of principle was people first, which means that we're thinking about the value of the people we're trying to serve. We're thinking about who we're going to collaborate with in the creation of this content. And it all creates one wonderful experience where it's not focused on our business. We end up growing business through osmosis. You don't need to be directly salesy, if you will. And I think that's probably the big difference between how a lot of B2Bs do it versus some other organizations that truly get it, do it, because they realize that the opportunity isn't in the 5% of a market that is looking for your product or service today. The opportunity is in the 95% of the people that don't want your product or service today. And it's about, building brand and affinity and trust with that cohort. And that's the thing that basically, if you build that as a platform for your marketing, then everything else gets so much easier. That's what I'd add to that.
Just to add to that, I think I love, Andy, your people first approach. Our starting point is always thinking about the who. So who is it we're trying to convince to do something? And I think as marketers, and we've been guilty of this before, we always try and overcomplicate everything. But when you kind of really strip it back and simplify what you're trying to do, you're trying to convince a certain type of human to take a certain type of action. So once you understand who it is you're actually trying to target. So for example, for us, we're looking to attract marketers from brands. And the second we really refined our strategy and thought, what do marketers from brands speak about when they're getting a coffee with their marketing mates? What kind of situations within the marketing world can they really relate to and understand? Then we started to create content that pokes fun at that and talks about these situations that marketers from brands will understand, to draw them in through skits, sketches, entertaining videos, educational videos, and then kind of draw them in. But that's not good enough. Then we need to think about what do we need to show them to demonstrate that we're the best solution to their problem, or the best company to solve their problem. And that's having the right ecosystem of case studies and examples of the results you've achieved and credibility factors and all of that stuff, and thinking about their customer journey. What do we need to do to hold their hand along that kind of journey and serve them all the information along that route to hopefully end up that we are the best solution to your problem. And another thing is kind of attracting people who are a good fit for you and repelling the ones that aren't. So I used to think that we want to work with everyone. If anyone wants to work with our agency, come on, yeah, this would be great. But over the years, it's kind of learned that really you want to be yourselves and be truly yourselves through your content to attract people who align with you and brands that align with you, and repel the ones that don't. Otherwise, you can get into some quite sticky situations. But that's just the way we think about it.
Yeah, I love that approach. And that's focus is all about saying no to certain stuff. And I'm a huge fan of Seth Godin, and he talks a lot about minimum viable audience and focusing so heavily on that. And, those kind of people that you really want to serve. So you understand the emotional drivers of them. And it's kind of interesting because Dan, we share very similar approaches to this. We all do, actually, to be fair. Whereas you've taken the entertainment first route and we've taken the kind of education first route. So it's kind of, there isn't one size fits all. I don't believe there's really one best practice. The only real best practice is truly understanding deeply those audience you're trying to serve, and then spending as much time as you possibly can truly understanding who they are, what drives them. Because that's a big beef that I have with marketers. They're honestly, most marketers I spend time with are the least connected to customers out of the whole business, don't spend any time with their customers, which is just mental. So yeah, that's the first and biggest thing to fix usually.
Yeah, how do you understand your audience? That's such a good question. So we've talked about making sure, which is so true, by the way. I love all of your comments, and it's stuff that I absolutely stand by. And anyone who comes to these webinars or listens to my podcast will know, how important that value exchange and, developing content that is answering a problem that is keeping your audience up at night is. Have you guys got any hints and tips? Now, obviously, I do this day in, day out, and so I'm not going to just say my ideas. I'm hoping you guys are going to have some different ones as well. How do you truly find out what is keeping your audience up at night? And how often do you guys look at that and evolve your marketing based on any other trends that you're seeing? So, how do you find out what those questions are? Because something that I'm really keen on doing is making sure you've almost got those questions like on sticky notes on your computer. Like, if my social content or my email content or whatever it is isn't responding to one of those problems, I'm not sending it. So how do you guys find out what those problems are for your audiences?
I can answer. I'd say the feedback loop, developing just a really strong feedback loop, is the way we do it at Born. So our information to answer that question comes from loads of different sources. First and foremost, all the new business conversations we have are the first thing that basically fuel our next quarter's content. So what are the challenges we're consistently hearing about? Whether that's operational challenges which an agency can solve, whether it's marketing challenges, and then can we map product and content around that? We then often, which I'm probably giving away the secret sauce a bit here, but we tend to test blogs before doing event content. So we do monthly webinars, but if you are sneaky and go through our blogs, you'll see that we normally preclude an event piece of content with a blog a few months before. That informs whether we want to do it as an event or not, because you'll generally see fairly good traction from a engagement perspective. So that's another good little feedback loop we have. And then we tend to see, again, from webinar signups, high numbers on certain content, and that may then inform future service and product updates. So that's hopefully that's the way we're trying to inform data all the way through. The first piece, though, before all of that is social. And so we'll tend to do teaser posts, maybe post a case study or talk about some of our content in a certain area. And again, that's the first and simplest indicator for whether there's traction and interest out there.
Love that. Anyone else got anything to add?
I love that feedback loop approach. I was about to share a much less sophisticated approach that sounds way less cool than that, Ed. But my answer to your question was by actually speaking to them. Like we started doing this a few years ago, actually interviewing and speaking to our current customers and asking them, like, once we've done a project, so we're not being annoying, but like, why did you choose us? What made you actually want to work with us? And some of the data we got from, for example, one of our first big kind of global brands we worked with, we were like, we want to win more work like that because it's bloody brilliant. So once we delivered the first project, I sat down with the marketing manager and was like, because we had a good relationship and rapport, I was like, why did you choose to work with us? Tell me everything. And he went through these things of like, the process of working with you is really nice and all this other stuff that really helped then inform our marketing messaging, because there were certain things we were doing that we just thought were like, yeah, that's just what everyone does. And he was like, made it clear that really meant something. We weren't even talking about that in our messaging. So yeah, much less sophisticated and less cool version of what Ed said, but actually speaking to your customers is what's helped us.
But it's so obvious, isn't it? But people forget to do it. Like, how often are you asking your clients what they truly value from you, not what you think they value from you? And we interview our clients, and often the feedback that we get is totally different to what the client, our agency client, thought that their brand client, really got value from working with them. And that totally changes often our, marketing and content pillars for that client, because, what they thought was their value is often different to what their clients believe their value is. And there's some really simple things that you can do by picking up the phone and speaking to your clients, but also looking at briefs or RFPs and the kind of language that they're using, and any spotting any trends obviously doing your own independent, market-based research, exactly like Ed's saying, looking at those feedback loops and making sure that you're, responding to interactions, doing things like, the poll, which I was talking about earlier on this, and also even when we're hosting a webinar, me looking back and going, okay, what were all the questions that were asked? Were there any trends? Were lots of people asking the same question? All of this is data that empowers our marketing strategy. And just one other thing that I wanted to talk about, and we'll dig into other deeper subjects. And Rupert, I can see that you've asked a question. I am going to come to them. I'm just going to try and get through some other bits first. So guys, please do submit your questions. I promise I will try and get around them all. But the other thing is thinking about the types of content that you want to push out, which I think you guys touched upon earlier. For us, we're the same as you, Andy, and Ed and Dan, but we're very focused on probably 80-90% of our content is, and people say this to me, you give away everything, you give your secret sauce. There's nothing that your business does that we don't know about, because you share all your insights, all the helpful things that I need to know to help improve new business processes within my business. You talk about and you put that content out. There is nothing that I hide. There's nothing that I don't want to tell anyone. I am very, very open about everything. So 80% of our content is around that. Very occasionally, and we probably should dial this up at some point, we will then do the prove it pieces, which are also really important, but we do this more for our clients than we probably do for ourselves, is then talking about, okay, so all this stuff that I say about and I talk about, how have we done that and implemented that for a client that has seen true return on investment and real results? So case study content, video case studies, testimonials, whatever you want to put out, that's an important part. And then the other third content type that I think is really important is also making it easy for people to buy you. So I've seen that you're really helpful. I understand how you can help me. I understand that you're good at it and that you've helped other people do this. Sometimes that's awards, testimonials, case studies, etc. How can I buy it from you? So we do things like product cards or productized offerings that give people a kind of taster of working with us, that enables them to see how they. So there's also different types of content. For us, we do 80% is the thought leadership, helpful, insightful content. Other people take a slightly different approach. I think most of us in the B2B world should be taking more of that approach because we're not big brands. But yeah, I think that's important to say that there's different types of content that you need to layer into this plan as well.
All good points. I think the only thing I would add, because I think Ed and Dan yourself covered it really nicely, the only thing I'd add is that some of the questions that you really want to understand make great social content anyway. Like thinking about putting those questions out on social is a great way to generate engagement. And to be honest, most of the questions that I want to have answered about from the people that are not our customers, because listening to customers and their journey and experience is super important, as is those people that are not your customers yet. So putting out content that helps people express like, why would they choose a certain agency? What do they look for in an agency? What are the things, their frustrations or whatever? So putting things like that out as social content really helps garner some qualitative feedback, because we want to think both qual and quant in terms of our feedback. From a quant perspective, I'm always looking at things like keywordstrategytool.com, which gives me understanding of like search volume and velocity around certain search terms, both on Google and YouTube. So looking at that on Keyword Strategy Tool gives me my idea of my my quantitative data. And then qual, I'm just spending every week, there's a customer interview that will happen or a prospect interview, just to make it like a ritual, because when you get something ritualized like that, it just becomes an inherent part of how you do business as a marketer, rather than like, oh, right, we haven't listened to customers for ages, we should make it a thing. It should be a thing as part of your every week process. So as soon as you processize it, then all of your marketing content gets better. But yeah, that would be my add on that.
Yes, so you're leading me on to, I mean, there's so many questions I want to ask, but you're leading me on to a really good question. Is one of the biggest challenges we see with clients is they want to do all of this. Agencies, do it brilliantly for their clients a lot of the time, but they can't find the time to do it for themselves. So how could they do that? And are there any tools that they could be using? I'm asking this on behalf of all of you guys out there, that could make this easier and help them get into that kind of engine practice where they're continually creating this content.
I'll go. If no one else wants to go.
Yeah, you go first. I'm talking loads, and then I'll follow.
So again, everything I'm talking about is just stuff we've learned along the way. So we never used to spend the time for our own marketing. We were the agency that, oh, we do it for everyone else, and then we looked crap online. We were that agency. But when we eventually realized the importance of actually scheduling the time on a weekly basis to invest in our own marketing, it was a game changer for us. So we started a few years ago by actually treating ourselves as a client and using our team's resource to be like, right, Knowlton is a client who we need to drive new business for. What's the strategy? Like, we've mapped out the strategy. What resource each week are we going to put into this? What are we going to do? And really having that time scheduled in all of our team's calendars who were part of this made it actually happen. It's the simplest thing we've done to actually make it happen, is scheduling the time in whoever's calendar is needed to work on our marketing strategy. And then if other things come in, we treat it as if we can't move it because it's like a client. That's just one really simple thing we did that dramatically helped us do that.
Love that. Andy, I'm sure you're going to have some tips
Right.
before I map in with mine.
Notepads at the ready. Some tools coming your way because I'm a tool and tech nerd, as you could probably expect. So number one, if we're thinking about what we were just talking about, like gathering customer insight, because doing a customer interview, like, it's only going to take 15 or 20 minutes, but it's actually deducing the insights, the bit that takes the time, right? Writing it up, etc. So I'd recommend a tool called Dovetail for that, which basically transcripts the whole user interview, pulls out key insights, and allows you just to hoover those insights into a nice stream of conversation around whatever topic you're researching. Super powerful. And basically it just allows you to get those insights at a glance rather than trawling through a 15-minute combo. Then we've spoken a lot at the beginning about like humanizing content. And I think that's the thing that we all have in common, Ed, Dan, myself, you, etc. We put ourselves in front of the camera, we talk and try and add value, whether it's entertainment or whether it's education. And of course, to do that, you need to be able to create content, and not enough people have enough time to do that. So if you want to generate copy around a certain subject area, whatever subject area it is, then use copy.ai. I'm sure you're familiar with this already, but you're going to see loads of these AI-powered copywriting tools come out because the technology is now ubiquitous. Everyone's got access. So copy.ai would be my recommendation there. I would also, when it comes to video production, of course, I'll probably say this because I work for Adobe now, but I use it myself anyway, which is Adobe Premiere Rush, which is free. As brilliant as when you're doing mobile first video, super easy to edit it, and also put loads of really simple transitions. All of my videos, everything I create is using Adobe Premiere Rush, and I create my whole week's content in about 45 minutes. So that's all the time I put into content creation, 45 minutes a week, and that's it. So Adobe Premiere Rush is good for that. Then you'll also need to subtitle it. So I'd recommend using something called Zubtitle. It's like subtitle with a Z, which is free. You can use that. And then basically, because all of the social platforms are kind of video first now and becoming increasingly so, focused on mobile video. So that kind of portrait orientation, then essentially I then put that same content across all of those different social platforms, of which we'd use a scheduling tool for that, which is in Adobe tool, but I'm kind of like, feel like I'm plugging own products, so I'm going to shut up now.
No, but there's lots of them out there, of course, but these are all really good. And do you know what? It enables you to scale using these tools is so important. So of course, there's other ones like HubSpot, of course, Andy's own platform, Content Cow, which is now part of Adobe. There's lots out there that can help you schedule, subtitle. There's some really clever platforms out there. Ed, I'm sure you guys, seeing as you are born social, what other tools should the guys have eyes on?
I think from an agency marketing perspective, big change for us was integrating with HubSpot and using that for both scheduling, email, and any outreach as well, and of course pipeline management. Bringing it all into one place has just given us a significantly better view on the pipeline in general. There were other tools, so it's more just having that that single, like taking your CRM seriously was a big change for us, and it's giving us serious insights, which are much more useful to action on. We've learned that in terms of conversations with new brands, the vast majority of people that we end up speaking with happen to have gone to one of our events. The vast majority of those people have found out about our events through social. So starting to connect that funnel together is basically allowing us to be like, right, marketing event content is the thing that gets us those conversations. So that's how we're going to get more of those conversations, and then that's going to make our social and our general content strategy way more pointed in the future.
Definitely, HubSpot is absolutely magic. We specifically, of course, implement HubSpot now for agencies on that kind of B2B, client acquisition journey, and it is so powerful. In fact, David, you've asked a question here which I think we're starting to answer. So you said, when you post socially, whatever your content is, it's a somewhat passive approach. You put it out there, you wait for a response, and you look at engagement, which is perfect. I understand the value of that, but in terms of directly generating leads, is there anything we should be doing differently? Do you approach your ideal clients directly, or are you just waiting for them to engage with your content? Do you push your content through an ad campaign to ideal clients? Then if an ideal client does engage with your content, do you have a plan to move them from an engager to a prospect? Yes, 100%. And there's so many things that you can do here. Some of the really basic things that any of you guys can do, and this is so simple, is tie together your email and your social marketing, which is something that we absolutely see great results from our clients. So yes, of course, to a certain extent, you can't see unless you're doing paid, which you can do really well on LinkedIn and Instagram and others. You can't necessarily see who's seeing your post. You're only seeing them if they're liking or commenting or engaging. I agree, but liking, commenting, or engaging they're still at that point, they're only engaging, they're not yet a prospect. So what we will then do is we use some other clever tools that enable us to gather more of their data, i.e. their email addresses, because we work in B2B. There are some really fantastic platforms like prospect.io, apollo.io. There's some marketing focused ones like Alpha Insights, etc. But the ones that you can actually sit on LinkedIn, you can then pull their email address, and then you can start having an email conversation with them. You can pull them into HubSpot. You can track their engagement both on your social channels and on your emails. You can then even see clever things like when they're visiting your website, because they're stored in your CRM, and push them along that journey a little bit further. So when we're looking at our social engagement, when people are liking, following us, when they're engaging with our content, when they're commenting, we're making sure we're also getting their data, their email data, and putting them into our email marketing funnel on HubSpot, because then we can see, okay, now we can see when they're visiting our website as well. And we can reach out to them in real time when they're engaged. And HubSpot helps us see all of that. And the same, if we've got new people attending the webinar today, you've given us your email data to attend the webinar, we will hopefully start you'll be Nicole, who helps run our new business, we'll start following you on LinkedIn, maybe connect with you, maybe start liking and engaging with your posts. So you can take a proactive approach and look at who's engaging with you in these different places and tying it together. So that's a really simple thing that actually most people can do without it costing much money. Obviously it does take a time investment, but it starts to tie the two things together a bit more.
Just to add to that, I think going back to what Ed said and what you were saying, the attribution part of your strategy is so important. And I think a lot of us, like if you're marketing and you don't know what's achieving what, then it's just a stab in the dark. Like you need to be thinking about and understanding what are all the different marketing channels you're using to achieve whatever you want to achieve, e-commerce sales or leads or whatever it is, or website traffic, and understand and use tools like there's tools like Lead Feeder we use, which is a similar thing to Lead Forensics, but they constantly call us trying to sell Lead Forensics, so I really don't like them. But Lead Feeder is a better version that don't annoy you with annoying sales calls, and you can track like people who are going on your website and what companies are visiting your website, and it's trying to, like Ed said, piece together those pieces of the puzzle. Like is someone going to your in-person event or finding you on social, going to your in-person event and then converting that way? Or because I think something we realized that we were really rubbish at when we started out was we didn't know what was doing well as part of we were doing loads of marketing stuff, but we didn't know what was working well, what wasn't. So we were just doing lots of things and it was working to an extent. But when we realized like, oh, now we can track everything. We understand that this channel isn't doing a lot. So let's stop putting resource into that. Let's put more resource into our podcast, because that's where a lot of our new business is mentioning they're coming through, and we can see that they visited our website and that kind of thing. So yeah, that attribution part is definitely a massive part of making an effective strategy work.
And just, sorry, very quickly, because Miss Maycock, I love this name, by the way, it's saying, does it cost a lot? It doesn't, it really doesn't need to cost a lot. Some of the tools, that Andy was talking about, we use slightly different ones. Is copy.ai similar to inflow.ai, but specifically for social rather than?
No, it's different. It's all for caption creation or written copy creation. So yeah, a bit different, but most of this stuff is free or very low budget or freemium anyway. Yes,
there's so many, honestly, that you can access, guys, that will cost you virtually nothing. When I started doing this, and do you know what, I am so glad that I did. We really put our energy into email marketing and our social strategies and heavily marketing ourselves, because that is what we do for our agency clients. So I have to practice what we preach. And also I feel that I need to try these tools before I'm able to, implement them for our clients. It helped, it made us grow. We had some really amazing growth last year, and actually somehow made it into the Drums independent agency list this year, which is a total surprise when they emailed me last week. But we would not have got there if we hadn't done this. The growth of Street and what we do for our clients is totally down to us investing time and energy in putting out consistently helpful content, putting on these webinars, recording the podcast. And you can start doing it really cheaply, because I can tell you, when I started, it was me, I was me and 2 people. Now we're sort of 14-ish people. So we wouldn't be here today if I hadn't done that. Social, doing the stuff we're talking about will help you grow, and it doesn't need to be expensive to get started. Anyone can do it. One-man bands can do it.
I think it's always a good point to call out as well, just on David's question too, about passive, are we waiting for people to come in? And also I want to pick up on the attribution point as well, because we need to be comfortable that everything we've spoken about is not a short-term tactic, right? This is a long-term foundational building. This is our opportunity through content to build trust, to build affinity, to build connection, etc. That's what we're trying to do. Whereas there are other tactics that generate quicker short-term results. And it's all about balancing the short-term ultimate business objectives, right? We need to hit certain revenue targets this month versus what do we need to build the foundation for the long term? And that's usually my main bugbear, is that businesses get that skew way off. Most B2Bs, only 17% of their budget goes towards brand building. And that is way off. If you look at the investment that, Dan, I'll hasten to make a case in point, you might tell me I'm wrong here, but the time investment that you put in the content that you create, that's actually brand building and not directly saying I'm trying to convert someone now, would outweigh the stuff that you're doing for direct conversion, activation orientated marketing. Right or wrong?
Yes, by a lot.
Okay, cool.
So true. I think that's the thing that we hear most from agencies is they're like, we need leads now. I just need leads. We do really well at converting. We just need leads and we need them now. And, they're constantly looking at this short-termism. Like, I need sales. I just need someone to bash out some phone calls. And it's a constant short-term attitude to attracting and winning new business means you consistently get stuck, because you do it, you get some new clients, you slow it down, you do it, and it's hard work. It takes more time and it takes more money. If you can get into a rhythm of producing insightful, helpful, advertainment type content that is going to help your audience and continually engage them, new business gets fixed forever. It doesn't become a problem anymore. So you've got to think about the things that are easy for you to do within your agency. I also talk a lot about how you can shatter content and make more out of your content. I do one podcast, which of course takes some planning and some organizing. We have to get brilliant guests, and I have to interview them, and that takes time planning and prepping for it. But that one podcast recording not only goes out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the podcasting platforms, it enables us to do a really nice written insight about what we talked about and what was learned on that podcast. It enables us to get some shorter video clips for our social channels. It enables us to get a slide share and some key hints and tips that people can take away and actually implement in their business. It enables us to do a maybe shorter 10-minute video that we'll put on YouTube. So that one thing produces maybe 10, 15 different pieces of content. And actually, a year down the line, sometimes that's a subject that we see being talked about again. We go, oh, we spoke about that. There's another clip actually we could use from that podcast and put out. You can put them out as audiograms, videograms, all of the different content types that Andy was talking about earlier. So, try and do things. It's something that I talk about a lot, is that are going to be easy for you to do, that you're going to be able to get a lot of content out from, because that's going to make it easier for you to actually do it and keep that consistency up, which is super, super important.
One of the additional benefits we see from having a mainly inbound approach is that decision makers are coming to us pre-qualified, knowing that they want to do business with us, and it's more of a discussion around how could this work, rather than the alternate, which at the other end of the spectrum would be cold outreach. Hey, we want to work with you, and they're like, and it's starting that relationship off in a not a great way. So yeah, the benefits of inbound, it's definitely a longer term approach, like Andy said, producing content on a regular basis that's value adding, that's entertaining, that's educational. It's not an instant, oh, suddenly we've got leads, loads of leads coming to our website. It takes time to build on, but it's worth it in the long run, and we've kind of seen that over the years.
That's such an important point. Sorry, you go, Ed.
I was just build on that and say, it's very easy to say, oh, we convert really well. Everyone converts their inbound leads relatively well because people are coming to them with a stated need and probably want to work with them. You get more inbound leads if you do the long-term brand building. We realised at Born Social particularly that we talked to loads of our clients about Les Burnett and Field, and balancing short and long-term brand activations and 80-20, and you need to do it as an agency as well. And if we do those long-term brand activations, then we're going to get those inbound leads, and then you're not going to have to worry about outreach so much. And your short-term activations can be focused around whatever you want, at value exchange, or if someone's come to your event, they've not come as an inbound lead, but you're going, right, that's a great brand, they've come to our last 3 events, let's push something to them, but it's not going to be a completely cold sales outreach, and it's certainly not going to be the bedrock of the new business growth for the year.
And I mean, quite simply, you can't sell to someone if there's not a foundation of trust there already. And no one trusts you from a LinkedIn message. They'll trust you when they've seen Dan optimize all of your LinkedIn feed with his funny videos, or him and his brother, or you've seen some Born Social content. And I think one thing we haven't picked up already is that, because I want to pick up on this about Born's approach as well, because we've had your strategy director, Tom, I think, on a couple of our webinars in the past. And the content is so brilliant. And our webinars had about 1,000 people turning up. So I'm sure there was some business generated, but it's going to be very hard to track that back. But fundamentally, it's about giving as much value away as possible. And most importantly, about finding those kind of symbiotic relationships where you can collaborate with others, because our audience, Born's audience, very similar. We're non-competitive. So finding those opportunities to collaborate with. And that would be my kind of main action for anyone that runs an agency. Look at the software companies that you work that are in also your space. Find those organizations you can work with to create content together. Because for me, this is one of the biggest missed opportunities in the world of social, because we always are thinking in our feed. What content are we putting in our feed? Which is fine, which is good, and there's a path for that. But we need to be thinking about broader share of voice. How much of the conversation do we have? How much are we appearing in other people's feeds? Because that ultimately is how we're going to generate awareness, build word of mouth. And that's why social media is the most powerful marketing channel, bar none, because it generates word of mouth and lights a fire under it. And let's be honest, there is no more powerful marketing tactic than the word of others. So all we need to be thinking about is, how do we collaborate with others? Like, how can we guest on someone's podcast? How can we be on the Business Anchors podcast? You might be getting a message from me after, Dan. So how can we be on that podcast? How can we co-create webinars together like we did with Born? those kind of things. There's so many people that are trying to approach the same audience of you that are non-competitive. So figuring out ways to work together, you can't do it overnight. It takes time to do that. But my word, is that a powerful strategy.
Love that, Andy. And it helps you. I think the other thing we were talking about is it helps you outbound your inbound, if that makes sense. So we're creating this content that produces inbound, but you're actually also creating content and things that you can send to people, which is a much nicer thing to do than inbox them going, look how great my agency is, we worked with Coca-Cola, and some of the horrible messages that you see on LinkedIn. If you can actually share something of value, you can actually use the content that you're creating to produce inbound to outbound, which is a much nicer way to do your outbound outreach. The other thing I just want to add to that is, of course, it's about attraction and engagement. That is the key here. It's about how do you attract and engage the audience that need you. But actually, what all of this does is it also enables you to convert your opportunities better, because if I'm pitching up against another new biz consultancy agency that kind of do a similar thing to us, but they're not doing all of the things that we're doing at Street, straight away I'm 4 or 5 steps ahead, because the person that is engaging with my content, and that hopefully has been engaging with my content for a period of months or years, when we get to the point of purchase or pitch or whatever, they feel that they already know me. So naturally, I'm already a few steps ahead of the person that they don't know, and they trust me. They've been engaging with that content. So I've built a level of trust before I've even spoken to them. I had a new business call with someone yesterday, and they were like, have we actually had a meeting before? Because I think we have. I was like, no, I don't think we have. It must be just because I've come to lots of your webinars. I feel like I already know you. And that really helps me from a new business perspective. Like, there's so many other things apart from pulling people into the funnel. But, I've been doing this since I started Street for 3 years. And it's something that I felt I had to do because I do it for my clients. I've got to practice what I preach. But, it really does help at every stage. And it means that we don't really have to do much outbounding, because it comes into us consistently because we're constantly doing this kind of stuff. Now, we've only got 8 minutes left. I do have a couple of questions, and one that are waiting to be asked, and 2 that I also have for you guys. So right at the beginning, we were talking about video content, Andy, and how important that is in terms of stats and the trends that you're seeing. Rupert's asked, in terms of short form video, have you got any advice in terms of ideal length or second length?
I mean, it's how long's a piece of string typically, but as general rule, I would try and orientate between 60 to 90 seconds, purely on the basis is that TikTok optimizes towards video completions. So the more times people finish your video, the more times it's going to be seen. So shorter naturally is better. I say 90 seconds max, because increasingly the platforms like Instagram Reels have just moved up to 90 seconds. It means basically you can repurpose it across more platforms. Most of them are limited to 60 at the moment, like YouTube Shorts, which is up to 5 trillion views already, which is just unreal. So so much opportunity on YouTube Shorts, but that's limited to 60 seconds. So, being able, and I'm always thinking, like you say, Katie, about how we can repurpose our content across multiple channels. So, Doggy's made an appearance, Ed. I
was going to say, I mean, obviously another massive tip is put your pets on your webinars. Ed has the cute puppy. Should we say hello to Puppy? It's a girl, right?
She's a girl. She's vomited twice during this call, which has been going very well. I think she's just come to say hi and tell me she's all right. Slightly worrying.
She's so cute. I mean, I have had that happen on webinars before and podcasts. My dog's been being sick, so I'm actually in the office today, so I've avoided that. Ed, have you got any comments on that as well? I think that, again, it's something that you guys obviously are seeing, not just in the B2B space, but also for your B2C clients. Any kind of trends around video length?
So trends outside of, I think it's more important to focus slightly outside of just the video. So video completion, I think Andy's answer is basically right. I think wider point on measurement is that follower growth is really not what social is about anymore. And from that perspective, it's about matching. We always, and this applies to our clients and ourselves, want to match our KPIs, our metrics against what our business goals are. And you can normally find some good correlatory goals there from that perspective. So we were talking about it earlier, but we know that once we have someone's email and we're in our HubSpot platform, we can kind of manage our communications and build a relationship over time much better, and track everything way better. So ultimately, email capture is a really simple goal from our LinkedIn paid campaigns and our social posts and campaigns. Beyond that, if at a stage further up the funnel, we might be focusing on engagement and on click-through rates, for example. But we're certainly not, we're not going to be worrying too much about video length. It's more just making sure it's native to the right point of the funnel and point of communication. So we're actually filming and producing some videos which will be longer form versions of some of our thinking that's going to be coming up soon, to explain some of our complex matters, but we're building them in kind of 10-second, 30-second, 1 minute and 5 minute versions, depending on the kind of conversation we're having with people and where it's going to sit. I should imagine on social, we're going to be sitting right more towards the 30 seconds and below, because we just know we're not going to capture that attention for very long in the first instance.
That's a good point, though. Actually, sometimes it's not about, there isn't like one answer for this. It's about having a range and actually trying it. We do clips of varying different lengths and see different results on different platforms. So there is no kind of one answer fits all.
We say something which may, as like overarches everything everyone else has said. Our approach is the video should be as long as it is interesting. So an hour video could work if it keeps people engaged for an hour, like a documentary, or a 5-second video, if it's interesting for 5 seconds, is good. Yeah.
Perfect point.
Well, there we go. I hope we've managed to capture all of your attention for nearly an hour. And thank you to all of you for joining. I am going to just launch the poll in the background. So if you can start to fill that out while I ask my very last questions. So Nicole has asked a question here around, and I think, again, this is really important, because one of the hardest things that we find with the agencies that we work with is actually just implementing this. So Nicole's asked you specifically, Dan, how many, but I think it'd be interesting to hear the same answer from you, Ed, because obviously you're slightly different sized agencies as well. How many people in your team are involved with your agency's marketing?
Good question. So there's 11 of us in-house and probably 10.
Wow.
Because our bookkeeper probably isn't as much. So yeah, probably 10 at different levels though. Like the production team are obviously creating the content, so very involved, and the creative team are coming up with concepts and writing scripts and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'd say 10 out of the 11 in-house, but we've also got a wider network of freelancers and stuff that we bring in for external projects and things. But yeah.
Do you have anyone on it full-time?
Well, I'd say yes, but it's a combination of our marketing and client marketing. So we've got a social media manager that's full-time on our marketing, but in terms of our kind of production team, it is a balance of client work and our own marketing.
Nice. Ed, same question for you.
Yeah, so from a Born Social perspective, we have a senior marketing manager and a junior marketing manager in the team. Lily and Jess, hello, if you're in the event. And they're running full-time on marketing work alongside myself. But I would say people at Born Social who've either written event content, been on events, written blogs, white papers in the last year is probably about 40 out of 100 at least. And if we extended that to writing case studies and award entries, you could probably push that up to 50, 60. Basically, the entire client services team will be involved in producing content. The big thing I found that was the difference at Born Social compared with previous agencies, and now I'm hearing a lot more agencies are doing this, and this would be my best advice for any person running marketing at an agency, is get it resourced, exactly what Dan said earlier, get it resourced like a client. Carve out time. I think it used to be very much that marketing content was a favor. It was a, hey, build your career, build your profile, whatever it may be. But I think if you give people the time and the space to do good work, just like they do for the clients, it's going to go so much better.
Love that. yeah, and have a lovely, gorgeous, naughty puppy in the background as well. That
She
always
just knocked
helps.
over a massive box or something.
Love her. Guys, I have shared the results from the poll. I really hope that you've all learnt a lot today. I've loved having you all with us, and yeah, cannot stress enough how important all of this stuff is and how it is a long-term solution. I always often talk about, this is one of my favorite phrases at the moment, how the true solution to your sales problem is marketing, it's not sales. So if you can take some of what we've said on board today and implement it, I can promise you, you will sell more. I've really enjoyed meeting all of you today. Thank you so much to my amazing guests. If you do have any questions, I know there's lots that we've talked about. I promise there will be some content going out via email and probably also published on our website, and little video clips if you want to go and give us a follow on LinkedIn, but we will follow up with all of you. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask them to me. And of course, if you like today's content, I know you'll love my other business, which is a New Biz training academy that has lots of this type of content on, and you can go and check out www.tamba.io, which stands for the Agency New Business Academy. So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and hopefully see you guys here again in July. See you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
everyone.
Thank you.